Hi, it's Talking Joe. Have you ever been at a social gathering of some sort and everyone was asked to introduce themselves and you went, "Hi, my name is," and for some weird 2 to 3 seconds, so you want something like, "Hi, my name is Joe," and for 2 or 3 seconds you didn't seem to have the right words. They were not just coming on what to describe yourself, so you ended up saying, "Hi, I'm Joe, and then I'm an extrovert." And then just by saying I'm an extrovert, you seem to have this conflict where you were asking yourself, what exactly is extroversion? Who is an extrovert? Or am I not an introvert? I can be quiet. Can't I be? So it seems like there was a war fighting going on in your head. So who is an extrovert? Who is an introvert? And then you eventually just said, you know what? I'm an extrovert. And then the next person was asked to introduce themselves. Has this ever happened to you? Because I found that oftentimes it happens with me. And one thing I found that is I am never in this table alone. You may be on this table with me. So today we're going to talk about extroversion and introversion. Not in a psychological, grammarly way. What I mean is, I'm not going to go so deep into it. Just going to talk about it basically so we could understand. So sit back, relax, enjoy. Alright, now the first thing about extroversion and introversion I want you to think of is extroversion and introversion are probably among some of the most abused words in our generation. Oh God, there are a lot. And it just so happens, oh, I'm an extrovert, I'm an introvert, happens to make the list. But usually when we do that, we come from a mindset that says, you know what, there are two groups. Extroverts are one group, introverts are one group. Well, that's not exactly the best picture to give. Because extroversion and introversion are not actually groups, as more like they are extremes on a single scale. So imagine a ruler. Imagine that your primary school ruler, that yellow ruler, remember? And then think of the fact that you have point 0 and then you have point 1. Let's call it 12. Now, 0 and 12 are the extreme positions on that meter rule. So think of extroversion and introversion in that sense. That 0 is introversion and 12 is extroversion. There's a scale. That's basically the best way to describe extroversion and introversion. Not two groups that people can belong to, but as much as you can see, there are two extremes of the same scale. So as a person, what you have is not characters from the same group. What you have is you have the entire scale. So in certain situations, certain characters can be on either ends of the scale. Now, extroversion and introversion are basically ways of classifying characters and traits. Traits are characters in personality theory. I'm not going to go into all the details, but they probably first coined somewhere around the early 1900s by a psychologist. Oh, no, too much details, too much history. We are not going there, so yeah. And another thing to notice, the current usage of the words differ from the original concept. So what the words mean today are not what they meant when they were first used. We've changed the definition a little too much for our generation. Not just us, but the original scientists and psychologists who have further described the term. Now, I've mentioned that they're viewed as a range, as a scale. So, typically, a person can be higher on one end than on the other, but you have the scale. So, in certain characters that make an extrovert, you are better than other characters that make an introvert. Now, Extroversion, basically put, is experiencing or obtaining gratification or pleasure from outside. So an extrovert is the person who receives pleasure or receives gratification from outside sources inside. So basically they enjoy human interactions and they're enthusiastic, they're talkatives, they're assertive, very firm, and then they are gregarious. And then one more thing is extroverts are energized by outside sources, so by crowd, by being in groups. They derive energy, like a lot of energy from just being in groups. So basically you find that extroverts work well with crowds. They work better in groups. So they're basically the ones who want to be in the group, and as much as they put in the effort, working in groups just gives them that whole energetic feel. And then they will most likely like to spend more time with people than being solitary, than being alone. So they would enjoy parties, church events, volunteering events, just a place where you can find a group of people. Those are extroverts. Or that basically is extroversion. Now, introversion on the other hand, or the other extreme, which is what we've described, is a basic state of obtaining gratification and pleasure from within. So it's like an opposite. So you obtain gratification and pleasure from within. And then introverts are perceived as more reserved. Now take note, I never said quiet. I said more reserved. Because quiet is like some other things. So an introvert is more reserved. They keep more to themselves. They are very reflective. They take pleasure in solitary activities like reading. Basically activities that extroverts would not do generally, like reading, writing, and deep thoughts, deep reflections, and they enjoy spending time alone, and then they are easily overwhelmed by too much stimulation from social gathering. So like an introvert, you hear people say things like, oh my God, I'm just exhausted. Why are they exhausted? Just the mere sight of being around crowd, it exhausts them. So when you hear that character, this person experiences introversion. And also they like to concentrate on single activity at a certain time, one activity per time. Now that we've defined what extroversion and introversion is, and we've said they are a range, what I want you to understand is every individual has an extroverted side and an introverted side. Because if we've said that it's a range of emotions and you have the range, that means, so imagine a meter rule. You bought a meter rule, a standard meter rule that is not broken. You have the entire rule. So on your meter rule or ruler, meter rule just sounds more physics. The science in me, but yeah. So your ruler would have 0 and it will have 12, like we've said. Except if, of course, you've been cheated and your eyes have been covered, but I'm kidding. So everyone has an extroverted and introverted side. So now, a person can have characters from both extremes. Now, the more characters you have from either of the extremes, the more of the extreme you are tilted towards. So you could find that you could enjoy social gatherings, you could enjoy working with people, but your favorite free time activities or your favorite hobbies are writing, reading, and deep reflection, or one out of the three. Now, which group you would typically be described into is based on which of the characters you have more of. So if you have more extroverted character, the best way to define you is not to say that you are an extrovert, but better to say, you know what, my extroverted side is more dominant than my introverted side, or I'm more of an extrovert than an introvert, or I'm more extroverted than introverted. That way, it gives someone the perspective that you have introvert characters. So for the time where you are trying to, get on with your head, am I extroverted or introverted? As soon as you say my extrovert side is more dominant than my introvert side, it already gives us the idea that, okay, there are certain characters that you have that are introverted. So that helps us differentiate them. Now, there are two things about introversion that has been done wrongly in our generation. And the first thing, and I'm not here to really call, I'm here to just talk about it. So this is them. One, people generally feel people who are introverted are more intelligent because introversion comes with some sort of stillness and calmness. So more respect is given to a person if they are introverted than if they were extroverted. I don't know why we do that a lot, but I don't get it. Now, if we've said all that we've said up to this point, that would mean that that's not the right thing to do. That a person is introverted does not make them more intelligent than a person who is extroverted. But well, we just like people, generally as people just see that someone who is more reserved probably has a lot of thoughts, so we think like a lot of more action going on in their head. But maybe next time let's try to loosen down on that a bit. So an introverted person doesn't necessarily mean more intelligent than an extroverted person. And then number two misconception about introversion is this: we assume or we take introversion to be equivalent to shyness. So if someone is shy, we say they're introverted, and we have never been more further from the truth than when we started doing that. Now, introversion, we've said, is obtaining gratification from outside. But shyness, on the other hand, shyness is basically gotten from distress. So a person who is shy is scared of social encounters. A person who is shy generally is that they are scared of encountering people either one-on-one or in groups. They are scared. As compared to extroversion introversion where they are not scared, but they don't just like to do it. So for one person, it's what I like to do. For another person, it's what I can do. So a shy person is scared of meeting people one-on-one. An introverted person is not scared. They don't just like it. So these two misconceptions about introversion are something I think you should correct and I should correct. So we are going to work on it, right? Yeah. Now that we've said that, there's one point which is the last that you didn't see coming. Now, we've defined extroversion and introversion as a range. But what if I told you between 0 and 12, there is 6, which is the middle? Right? Exactly. So there is a middle group that most persons are not aware of. And I can check, maybe you most likely will not, I'll allow you, but if you were not aware, well, you're about to be. The middle group is called ambiversion. They're called ambiverts. Now, this is the thing. An ambivert is a person who possesses equal amounts of, that's the best way to describe it, but not necessarily equal, but possesses equal amounts of both groups at the same time. Now, at the same time, meaning in a single event. So imagine a person who meets a new group of people, and at a single event, that single event is a bit reserved, a bit withdrawn to themselves. But in that same activity, they work so well with others. You know those people, right? Their minds are constantly brainstorming ideas. Maybe you've experienced them, but they're still very reserved. Those persons are ambiverts, because if you take them and put them in an extroverted situation that requires for extroversion, they're going to be good extroverts. But if you take them and put them in introverted situation, they're going to be very good introverts. So this is it. So basically, this is all of the groups for describing personality theories. Now, there are other ways to describe personality theories, but extroversion, introversion, and ambiversion are some of the most popular ways, and I just thought to talk to you about them. Now, if you've understood everything I've said this way, it means next time, maybe don't say I'm an extrovert, maybe say hi. So a typical introduction would be hi, I'm Joe. And I'm a person who is more extroverted than introverted. You get it? Alright. Thank you for sticking with me in this episode. Until when next I see you. Peace.